Before we start, the name is at the top of the screen. The second home of Count Ruttelberg, aka the Haunted Mansion. Counts, which rank under dukes and marquises, are nobles, yet due to past errors this family is quite poor. They barely have money to rent their homes, yet alone a second villa. The rusty gate, the cracked cobbles. The overwhelming darkness caused by wild, untrimmed trees. This truly looks the part of a haunted house. Or it did, until 2 weeks ago. Luciana tells her maid they'll be taking their tea on the terrace, making her friends gasp, the terrace? But when they follow her there, their surprise only deepens. Before them stretches a view that looks almost enchanted, as though the garden has transformed into a fairy kingdom overnight, nothing like what they remember, spacious and breathtakingly lovely. Luciana smiles faintly and gestures for them to sit, inviting them to have some tea. The moment they sip, their chatter fades as they drink in quiet awe, gulping down the mellow sweetness that seems to wrap around them like a silken blanket woven from spirited flowers. The smooth texture slips down their throats like silk, carrying a deep yet gentle flavor without the faintest trace of astringency. One of the girls finally breaks the silence, wide-eyed, asking if Luciana can really afford such fine tea, to which Luciana's lips curve as she replies that it is the same tea they always serve. Gasps ripple around the table, and another friend shudders, asking how that could be, how this ambrosia was brewed from the same leaves as that bitter stuff, making Luciana let out a light, knowing laugh as she explains that even low-quality tea can be transformed with the right brewing method. Their gazes drift to the maid, an unfamiliar face, but their curiosity soon melts into chatter again until one friend leans in, remarking that it's not just the tea, that Luciana has changed everything, her garden, her manner, the entire atmosphere, and demands to know what happened in just 2 weeks. Luciana says she's afraid she's not at liberty to say. One of them protests, telling her not to be such a tease before pausing to comment that she shouldn't talk like that, asking since when she sounds like that, and Luciana's smile stiffens for a heartbeat as she glances at her maid, thinking with quiet triumph that she nailed the voice like a princess or whatever, while her friends have no idea how hard she's worked to perfect it. Her friends giggle, saying it's all wonderful but that they still love her more laid-back self. Luciana laughs, genuinely pleased, and admits she's been perfecting this whole Miss Fancy Pants Luciana routine for the spring ball. It's their first debut into society. After seeing her friends off, her maid Celeste steps forward and gently reminds her that she should brush her hair before dinner. Luciana turns, her face warming, before she suddenly jumps into the maid's arms and exclaims her thanks. The maid staggers back, blurting that hugging one's maid is not proper. Luciana exclaims she knows but she can't help it, she's just so happy. The tea party never would have gone so well without her. The maid tries to free herself, insisting Luciana let go, but Luciana grins and says in her normal voice that she should let her touch her just for a quick moment. The maid gives her a look and asks where on earth she picked up such language, suggesting they might need to redo her etiquette training from scratch. Luciana throws her hands up in surrender, pleading for anything but that. To convince her, she quickly adds that she'll uphold her lessons when they're in public. The maid raises an eyebrow and asks if she promises. Luciana nods eagerly. With a resigned sigh, the maid relents, saying very well and tells her again to brush her hair. As the maid runs the brush through her long locks, she glances at her maid in the mirror and asks, curious, why she chose to work at a place like this. A girl like her must have had plenty of options. That was all there was to it, or so it seemed. Later, curiosity got the better of her, and little Ritsu looked up maids on the internet, kitchen maids, housemaids, parlor maids, there were so many types. A few days later, when her father returned home, she greeted him wearing a little maid's outfit of her own, grinning from ear to ear. He beamed at her, while her parents exchanged an amused glance, murmuring about how she had been so much livelier lately after a long spell of boredom. All the color that had once faded from her world seemed to be returning again. And so Ritsuko became a total maid junkie. She fixed her incredible mind on researching maids while dabbling in other studies as well. One day, she announced to her parents that she was going to study in England to become a maid. Years later, in her second life, the sight of a maid stirred something deep within her. In an instant, everything came rushing back, the plane crash, the fragments of memory, and the realization that, in this new life, she was Celeste McMartin. She has been reborn into another world. This is Anavalez, a border town in a country called the Kingdom of Theolos. It must be another world. She has never heard of such a place. Besides, this world has magic. More importantly, maids are a thriving profession in this era. This time she can be a maid for real. In this world, they become an adult at 15. Until then, she will have to trade in secret. But life wasn't on her side. Not long after, her mother passed away, leaving behind a letter. In it, she apologized saying she was sorry for dying and hoped her daughter would forgive her for leaving her behind. She wrote that she wished she could have spent more time with her, at least long enough to congratulate her for coming of age and for pursuing her dream of becoming a maid. Her mother went on to say she must be surprised how she knew, but of course she was her mother, she could never truly hide anything from her. She revealed that she herself had once been a maid too. In fact, that was how she had met her father. She had never told her before, but her father was the heir to a county. By now, surely, he would have inherited the title. The letter ended with two choices: she could go to her father and one day become a countess, or she could follow her own path and live as a maid, as she had always dreamed. Whatever she chose, her mother had written, she will be proud of her. But if she chose to be a maid, she could do her one last favor and be the best maid in the world. Tears welled in Celeste's eyes as she read, spilling down her cheeks until the words blurred. She cried out that she would be a maid, it had always been her dream. But just as she spoke those words, she noticed the candle beside her had gone out. Without thinking, she lifted a trembling finger toward it, and in that instant, the wick flared to life, light spilling across the room. She froze, staring at it in disbelief. Magic. It couldn't be. She had been told all her life that she had no magic. Then how could this be happening? She sank to the floor, her heart pounding, the realization sinking in. If she lost control, if this strange force burst out all at once, it could hurt people. Celeste has no idea that she has more power in her pinky finger than all the mages of the kingdom put together. In other words, her vast power reserve and ridiculously precise control over it would make most mages faint from shock. An exceptional genius will be an outliver wherever she goes. Celeste tries to use fire magic and wind magic at the same time and it works. She cannot believe such complex tasks are this easy to accomplish. Even after seeing it with her own eyes, she cannot fathom that she has so much magic. The power that Celeste acquired is such that, were it her desire, she could rule the world with an iron fist. Power of this scale was said to corrupt the hearts of men, to twist them toward the darkness that forever called from within. With strength like this, she could do anything, and that was the danger. It was a thought as seductive and corrupting as the devil himself whispering in one's ear. If she wished it, this girl could destroy the empire. But the thought that came to her wasn't of destruction. It was something far simpler, far purer. With power like this, maybe she really could become the best maid in the world. So she made her choice. She would turn this gift, this dangerous force, into her own special, maid's magic. And thus began the tale of the maid of all maids. Having renewed her determination to become a maid, she changed her hair and eye color and left town. This Count Cloud Legendbarth, the estranged father her mother mentioned in her letter. If, by some twist of fate, he wound up hiring her as a maid, he could very well forbid her from following that line of work the second he found out it was her. After so long an absence, she doubts he's looking for her mom, but better safe than sorry, as they say. This level of magical skill is typically impossible, but she does it on instinct. Plus all she's doing is bending the light around her hair with magic so it won't even get damaged. Meanwhile, two knights arrive at the mayor's residence. One of them, standing tall and composed, introduces himself as Sable, then gestures to his companion beside him and insists this is Lect. The mayor, his brow furrowed with unease, asks cautiously, what brings two knights of Count Legendbarth to such a small town as theirs? Sable tells him to keep this confidential before pulling out Celeste's mother picture and says they are searching for her by the order of his lordship. Recognition dawns on the mayor's face, and he murmurs that her name is Selena. Sable immediately leans forward and asks if he knows her. The mayor nods and says there is no doubt, the woman in the picture is Selena. Sable's eyes brighten as he says they have found her at last and that they can finally send his lordship some good news. But then the mayor's expression shifts, his face clouding over, and Sable notices it right away, asking what that look means and if there is something he is not telling them. The mayor hesitates before lowering his gaze and admitting that Selena has passed. He explains that an illness swept through the town about half a year ago. He mumbles an apology and then asks, if he may be so bold, why the count is searching for her. This time, Lect steps forward and warns this must not leave the room. Many years ago, Miss Selena and his lordship were deeply in love, but the previous count forbade them from marrying due to the woman's low birth. However, the count loves her still, and the second the previous count passed 5 years ago, he has been scouring the world for her. The mayor mumbles that this means Celeste is, but before he can finish, both knights stiffen and demand to know who that is. He admits she's Selena's daughter, and that sets off a chain of questions. Did Selena marry someone? Whose child is she then? How old is she? What does she look like? The mayor stammers through his answers. 15 years old, blue eyes like her mother, and hair a rare color of silver. The two knights exchange a sharp look at that, realization flashing between them. Later, in the neighboring country of Trendivalles, after hours of searching and finding nothing, they piece together what little they know. Silver hair like that should stand out anywhere. If no one's seen her, she's already long gone. Sable recalls the mayor's last words: she'd left to ease her grief, renting a stagecoach bound west. That was 2 days ago. By now, she's likely somewhere in Trendivalles, lost in the crowd. Sable mutters under his breath that there's no mistaking who she is, then swiftly mounts his horse. He tells Lecht he'll head west and chase her down himself, ordering him to return home and report everything to the count. Lecht never imagined things would unfold like this. The count must be told immediately, but the thought of delivering such grim news makes his chest heavy. Poor Lady Selena. As he walks through the bustling street, he notices a girl standing by herself, looking lost. Concerned, he approaches and asks if she's all right. When their eyes meet, something in him stills for a heartbeat, but her black hair throws him off, and he fails to recognize her. Celeste murmurs that she's trying to reach the capital but can't find where to board. He points out the way, and she flashes him a bright, grateful smile before hurrying off. He stands there for a moment, watching her go, wondering if she's traveling alone. It's a government-run carriage, he reminds himself. She will be safe. Pushing the thought aside, he steels himself. There's no time to linger. The count must be informed and he must return to the capital at once. Later, she shares a carriage with a well-dressed man who mentions that the crown prince was the one who came up with the idea for the public coach service. They began working on it 7 years ago, though he first proposed it a year before that. She tilts her head in surprise, saying the crown prince is her age, meaning he would have been only 6 at the time. Gosh, she says with a small laugh, there really are some amazing people in the world. The man chuckles and says she certainly knows many interesting things. He admits it has been delightful talking to her and that he's glad they were seated together. When he politely asks her name, she hurriedly replies, Melody. Melody Wave. Better safe than sorry, she thinks. She lied to the townsfolk about where she was headed, changed her appearance, and if she gives away her real name now, all her efforts will go to waste. The man leans back, commenting on how remarkably smooth the ride is. The roads here are in terrible condition, yet the coach hardly shakes at all. He wonders how on earth the coachman manages it. Celeste sneaks a glance out the window, murmuring softly it's time to recast her magic. She whispers her spell beneath her breath, ensuring the carriage remains steady. The man asks if she said something. She blurts no, just glad the ride's smooth. She gets motion sickness easily. When they finally reach the capital, the coachman is showered with praise for his incredible skill. The man turns to Melody, saying she mentioned wanting to become a maid. He suggests she visit the Commerce Guild. They help newcomers without recommendations find employment. She thanks him with a warm smile, saying that would be a great help. As she walks away, he finds himself standing there with his hand half raised in farewell, a wistful thought crossing his mind. He would have loved to hire her himself, though his father would never permit such a thing. Just then, a voice calls out from behind him, calling him Master Maxwell. Max says they should go. His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince, is awaiting his report on the western roads. The man stops him, saying, not so fast. Before they go, he has to tell him who he has decided to escort to the spring ball. Max exhales, sounding weary, and replies that he has no intention of escorting anyone. When the man persists, Max's tone hardens as he refuses flatly, saying he'll tell him only if he ever finds someone he truly wishes to invite. Meanwhile, Celeste arrives at the guild. She scans the board lined with job posters, but every listing she finds is for short-term work only. The Commerce Guild is a government-run organization. Initially it offered intel loans and additional aid to guild members who paid yearly fees. But about 6 years ago, they began helping non-members. This job placement system is just one of their many services. There is an offer for a laundry maid and housemaid. She does enjoy both of those, but if she is going to be the best maid in the whole world, she must know how to cook and help young ladies with their toilette, entertaining guests as well. Perhaps she could even build a lovely gazebo in the garden for tea time. She could also invent her own line of cosmetics and build fancy furniture. What this particular maid maniac thinks maids do does not necessarily reflect beauty. Just then, a woman approaches and tells her they've received new postings. Celeste perks up. New job listings might mean better options. She schemes through them, another for a chef, one for a gardener, and then her eyes catch on a notice for a female servant, a maid position in a noble household. She pauses. A maid position? Those usually require references. Yet here it is, exactly what she's been hoping for, an all-works maid. As the name implies, this maid does it all. Kitchen duties, laundry, cleaning, entertaining guests, and all other necessary responsibilities. They are primarily hired by the lower nobility and middle-class commoners who cannot afford to employ numerous servants. It is an enormous amount of work, yet in status they are also the lowest-ranking type of maid, making the position double challenging. Managing a household alone, while grueling, is not impossible, but a noble's mansion? It is unthinkable. Yet the Ruttelbergs are offering just such a position. It seems like a mission impossible no matter how she looks at it, but Celeste's hands tremble with excitement. This is great. It is perfect. It is exactly the kind of position she has been searching for. Without a second thought, she hurries over to the woman and informs her that she would like to apply for the posting. As Celeste leaves, the woman watches her go and quietly remarks that she hopes the senior maid at Ruttelberg Manor is a kind person. Then she suddenly freezes, realization dawning on her. She turns to her colleague and asks if it is the same manor. Her colleague nods and replies that it is. The poor maid who used to manage the place injured her back and can no longer continue her duties. The Ruttelbergs may be nobles, but they cannot afford to hire anyone with proper references. Then again, they will be hard-pressed to find anyone willing to work there at all. The woman brings a hand to her mouth, horrified at the thought. She cannot believe she has just sent a cheerful, eager newcomer straight into what might be a trial by fire. Meanwhile, Celeste stands before the towering manor gates, gazing up at the shadowed building. A chill runs through her as she wonders if the mansion might be haunted. But then a smile breaks through Celeste's hesitation as she thinks to herself that this is such a tangible opportunity, she simply must be hired here, no matter what. If this is the front, then the servants' entrance should be nearby. Just as she starts to look for it, the sound of footsteps makes her turn. A girl approaches, asking who she is. For a moment, Celeste is struck speechless by Celeste's beauty, but the impression fades as she notices her tangled hair, dull skin, and worn-out dress. Still, she quickly shakes off the thought, this is hardly the time to dwell on appearances. Celeste straightens up and informs her that she has come regarding the job posting from the Commerce Guild, introducing herself as Malady. The woman is surprised, saying they just posted it yesterday, but then recovers and tells her they can talk in the dining room, grabbing her by the hand. As she leads her toward the front entrance, Celeste mentions that servants usually enter through the back, but Luciana insists it's fine as long as she has permission and that it's no issue. Luciana then looks at her and then introduces herself. She quickly adds that she knows she doesn't look the part, but she is the Count's daughter. Celeste gulps at the realization. Her boss. Luciana says she'll fetch some tea, but Celeste quickly protests, saying she can't possibly allow a noble to serve her. Luciana only smiles, insisting it's fine, she always makes tea herself, even at home. Celeste insists right back that she should be the one to prepare it instead, promising she'll make the most delicious tea in the world. When Luciana hands her some water, Celeste pauses and asks when it was drawn. Luciana replies that she took it from the local well yesterday, assuring her it's still fine. Celeste frowns slightly, this water isn't ideal for brewing, and casts a spell to refresh it. Luciana's eyes widen in astonishment. She can use magic? She asks, unable to hide her surprise. Celeste nods and says her tea shall be ready. They want a percentage of dissolved oxygen, so water recently drawn from a well surrounded by good clean air is ideal. As hot water fills the pot, the dissolved air within initiates a convection motion, causing the tea leaves to gently rise and fall. This is called jumping, and it extracts the flavors of the tea more efficiently. When Luciana sips the tea, she cannot hide her surprise. She exclaims it is so good and asks if it is even the same tea. She has always secretly hated this cheap tea they get, but now the taste, the scent, it is all different. Luciana doesn't think much about it, deciding it must simply be about brewing technique, and then asks if Celeste wants the job. Celeste eagerly says she does, prompting Luciana to smile and mention she will set it up right away. Before she can, however, Celeste asks if she might have a word with the housekeeper about her duties, making Luciana freeze in place. In a lowered voice, Luciana asks if she isn't aware, to which Celeste blinks in confusion and asks what she means. Looking uneasy, Luciana explains that the thing is it would be just her. Celeste, still not understanding, asks if she means there's only one opening or if there were other applicants. Luciana quickly shakes her head and clarifies that she means she would be the only one there, the only maid, the only servant, period. Celeste stares at her in disbelief, her voice soft with confusion as she repeats, almost to herself, that it would only be her. Luciana believes she is gonna turn it down, an educational institution in the capital, the Royal Academy for Higher Learning. There it is compulsory for noble children to attend for 3 years starting from the age of 15. Luciana Ruttelberg is no exception, having been accepted to the academy this year. Her parents were supposed to come with her to the capital, but due to some trouble in their territory, they ended up sending her alone. Waiting for her was a haunted house. The only staff member was an elderly maid, and soon even that maid. God Sake. Left to her devices, she convinced herself she will be fine. She did chores for herself back home all the time. The food Luciana had made tasted awful, and with so much dust around, she had fallen sick not long after. When Celeste asks if that means all the household tasks will fall to her, Luciana assures her that of course not, she should only do as much as she can manage, and anything left undone, Luciana will help with. Celeste beams at that, her face lighting up as she exclaims that it's wonderful news and asks if she can start right away. Luciana blinks, clearly thrown off by her enthusiasm, and hesitantly asks if she really doesn't mind, if she would truly be fine managing the entire mansion alone. Celeste answers with absolute delight, saying she was actually worried she might have to work as part of a team of all-works maids, so this is even better. Luciana can't help wondering why she looks so happy about it, while Celeste, inwardly cheering, thinks all that work will be hers. She's the happiest girl in the world. When she asks for her uniform, Luciana admits she doesn't have one prepared, prompting Celeste to simply cast a spell, and in an instant, a perfectly fitted maid's uniform forms around her figure. Luciana stares in shock, her mind blank as she wonders how on earth the girl managed to keep every crucial bit properly covered throughout that transformation. When Celeste spins once and asks with a bright smile if her new uniform is to her liking, Luciana can only stammer out that she looks great. Celeste is pleased by Luciana's agreement and remarks that when it comes to maid outfits, nothing beats the classics. Luciana, still a little dazed, admits she never knew magic could do that much, prompting Celeste to smile proudly and mention that she even placed a protection charm on it, stronger than most armor, in fact. Glancing around the dusty, neglected halls, Celeste declares that restoring the manor will be her top priority, though she quickly realizes she can't possibly handle everything alone. Her solution is simple: make herself not alone. With a flick of her hand, she summons several magical copies of herself, her body alter egos, and begins assigning tasks with brisk efficiency. Once everything is in motion, she decides to handle dinner. Outside, she conjures shimmering wings to carry her to town, but upon arriving, she finds the local market entirely out of their budget. Undeterred, she ventures into the nearby forest, gathering green mushrooms, wild fruits, and herbs, though she sighs that some meat would have made the meal perfect. Her wish is swiftly answered when a bird swoops overhead, giving her an idea. Channeling her magic, she skillfully hunts it down, though as she prepares it, she can't help but think the birds in this world are strangely large. Still, it's plenty of food. As the sky darkens, she realizes it's getting late and decides to take a shortcut home, summoning a glowing doorway that opens directly into the servants' entrance. Stepping through it with a satisfied grin, she thinks to herself that magic really is the best kind of time saver. Celeste hasn't known many other magic users, that is why her understanding of normal magic and insane magic is so skewed. Her mom had only one fire spell that she could only cast once a day and still she has no clue. Luciana watches as Celeste brings her food and apologizes for the wait. Luciana tells her she doesn't have to push herself, she must already be exhausted, but Celeste assures her it's no trouble at all. She smiles brightly and insists Luciana take a nice break and enjoy her tea, speaking with such energy that Luciana almost feels guilty for sitting down. Then Celeste thinks aloud that since she's on a break, she might as well use the bathroom too. Luciana points down the hall and says it's the one there, mentioning that most of the clearing in that area has already been finished. When Celeste leaves, Luciana looks around the now dazzling mansion, thinking to herself that Celeste sure works fast, and she's surprisingly detail-oriented for someone who just started today. But then her fingers brush against the wall and she pauses. There had been a huge crack there before. Now it's completely gone. Moments later, Celeste reappears, cheerfully announcing that she just finished cleaning the washroom. Luciana eyes her suspiciously, her mind racing as she tries to piece things together. Something is fishy here. She walks over to the kitchen, thinking she's really focused on cleaning right now, but will she even have time to cook dinner too? To make sure, Luciana quietly heads to the kitchen, but the moment she steps inside, she freezes. Her eyes go wide, her breath catching in disbelief. There are multiple Celestes working together in perfect sync, scrubbing, chopping, and stirring as if they've rehearsed it for years. The sight makes Luciana shudder. Later that evening, as she eats, she can't help but murmur how delicious the food is. She smiles and says she especially liked the main course, the grilled poultry with herbs. It's absolutely to die for. She admits she hasn't been able to afford meat in ages and asks with genuine curiosity if there was a sale. Celeste admits that she actually found the meat out in the woods. Luciana asks if she means by using magic like before. Celeste nods proudly and adds that the vegetables and herbs came from there too, saying she's glad they live so close to such an abundant forest. Luciana says the only forest nearby is the cursed Vandergrande and that place is certainly not fit for foraging. Celeste asks if there's really a cursed forest around here. Luciana says that there, and it's incredibly dangerous. She warns Celeste to never, under any circumstances, wander inside and makes her promise she won't ever go near it. Celeste quickly nods, admitting she'll be sure to avoid it. What neither of them knows is that she has already walked out of that very forest. Luciana's expression softens into a smile as she thanks her for today, saying she's truly glad Celeste came to work for them. It already feels like the mansion has come back to life. Meanwhile, His Majesty receives urgent news that there was an intruder spotted in the Great Vandergrande forest, leaving him frozen in shock as the words sink in. The Vandergrande wood, one of the largest blights on the magical world, teeming with magical creatures called monsters, which only powerful spells can damage. Though there are many such cursed lands, this forest is especially dangerous and has been sealed away to keep the monsters in and unwitting travelers out. His Majesty asks the man if the intruder is still in there, but the messenger replies his wards have not detected anything leaving the area. What they do not know is that the intruder already left through a dimensional wormhole. The king then orders to send more soldiers to the region, and to have them scour the words for anything out of the ordinary and to stay vigilant. He also orders the messenger to keep a constant eye on their sensing wards for even the slightest change. He then murmurs almost to himself, just who could this mysterious intruder be? He is a maid. Meanwhile, Luciana tells Celeste she wants to invite her friends for a tea party. She wants to show them they have changed. Celeste is thankful that she managed to catch a beast today. Now that she has a favorite sport, she uses her dimension door for both ingress and egress. And she has no idea that she is coming and going out of the forbidden forest as she pleases. Luciana thinks for a moment before saying the two girls she wants to invite are her childhood friends. Lady Miliaria, the daughter of Baron Fahrenkult, and Lady Beatrice, the daughter of Baron Lillardkruz. Their homes are on the land next to their own. Their families bought that land from the man who was the count 2 generations prior to her father when his business failed. Since their family was having trouble paying their debts, it was actually a kindness on their part. But for some reason their generation's count was accusing them of stealing their land. Luckily the title of count was quickly passed to her grandfather who made peace with the barons. So they managed to avoid the awkward predicament of having two enemies right across the fence from them. Ever since, their three families have been very close friends. But she left a terrible impression at the very last party and now she has to fix it. Luciana glances at her with bleeding eyes, making her finally agree. Later, Luciana stands before the mirror, looking completely different from before. Celeste arranged her hair and used the spells of hers to make her this beautiful dress. Now Luciana can invite them without feeling insecure. In fact, she wants to invite them. Celeste suggests a week from now on for the tea party. Luciana throws herself into her arms and exclaims her gratitude. Celeste chastises her that she must not hug her maid. It's not proper. But Luciana reminds her, she knows she likes it, and not to be so cold. Celeste grumbles where on earth did she learn such language, making her smile wider and say sorry. Celeste then mumbles she has her work cut out for her if she is going to train her in time for the party. Luciana asks train her for what? Celeste's lips curl into a devilish smile as she declares she'll teach her to speak like a lady. It was right then that Luciana realized the Pandora's box she had unwittingly opened. Mizunami Ritsuko was a one-in-a-generation genius. Had she not died young, her innate ability and diligence would have surely secured her a permanent place in human history. Why? Because of her force of will. In short, once Ritsuko puts her mind to something, it will get done. Since mids were her fixation, she exerted incredibly strenuous amounts of effort to learn everything about them. Since that is the norm for her, her teaching methods are a Spartan-level harsh. On the bright side, at least Luciana's lady powers finally bloomed as a result. After much ado, the tea party is only a day away when a maid accidentally spills something on Celeste's dress. Despite Celeste's insistence that it's fine, the maid panics and insists on taking her to the mansion she works at nearby, saying she will draw a bath for her immediately. They have to wash the uniform now, or the stain will set. Celeste follows, thinking perhaps the maid serves a baron or a knight, given how modest the mansion looks. Later, she stands in a guest room, wrapped in a towel, wondering in mild exasperation why she's completely naked for something so trivial. Eventually, she gives up questioning it and sinks into the warm bath, sighing as she murmurs that the bathing customs in this world never fail to weird her out. The bars are all Western ceramics. Yet the bathing process is more Eastern. People sit on a stool and wash before even getting in, like in Japan. The sort of maid jobs available feels closer to England in the later half of the 19th century. But this world is more like medieval Europe and has magic. Yet all the bathrooms look just like those in Japan. This world was cobbled together with all the best parts of human history. Now that she thinks about it, it has been a while since she has been in a bath. She didn't have to draw herself. Maybe it wouldn't hurt to let her disguise slip for a moment. Her blonde hair spills out and her original eye color returns. She looks at herself and says hello mother. She has missed her. She has the same eye color as her mom. She tells her mother she did it. All that is left is to keep working until she is the best in the world. But she wonders what she will have to do to qualify. What does she mean? She wonders, best in the world. It was her mother's final wish, but what was she feeling when she wrote those words? Well, whatever it takes to be the best. One thing is for sure, she's not reaching the top unless she can perform every conceivable duty of a maid. For now this all-works maid position at the Ruddelberg mansion is the best way to do it. After all, she may have some self-taught knowledge from her past life, but she's still a newbie. This is the first actual maid job she has ever done. She only just got her qualifications too. She just has to keep building experience and one day she will fulfill her promise to her mother to be the very best. The bath has done wonders for her mood and it warmed her too. Now that she has had a nice bath, she supposes she should ask Paula for her uniform back. She opens the door and steps out only to freeze at the sight of a man standing before her, just as naked as she is. For a heartbeat, neither of them moves, both staring in absolute shock. Then, with a startled gasp, Celeste instinctively casts a spell, and the man vanishes on the spot. A flustered scream escapes her as she grips the towel tighter, mumbling, "What's with that man? What kind of degenerate barges into a bathroom without even knocking? It's like he thinks he owns the place." Moments later, Paula bursts into the room, alarmed by the noise, asking what happened. What she doesn't know is he does own the place. Meanwhile, the Count informs Lectus that he wants him to attend this year's spring ball. Lectus stiffens in surprise and tries to protest, saying he's only a humble knight, surely his presence wouldn't even be noticed. The Count tells him not to be foolish. Every year that he's absent, he gets countless complaints from women asking where he is. Besides, this is the year the Crown Prince enters the academy as a new student. It's imperative that he needs to be there to celebrate. Lectus looks like he wants to argue, but finally relents with a sigh. After all, the Count is his superior, he can't exactly refuse. Still, he can't help thinking how much he'd rather switch places with Sable. At least then he'd be in another country instead of dealing with nobles and their endless formalities. The Count, watching him, hides a satisfied smirk behind his composed expression. Perfect, he thinks. With Lectus at his side, the number of women throwing themselves at him should lessen. Most of the eligible ones will likely redirect their attention to Lectus instead. Though he makes it sound like he's sending him for some noble reason, it's painfully obvious he's just using his knight as a human shield. Then, as if to add insult to injury, the Count tells him he should also bring a date to the ball. Lectus flinches, asking if that's really necessary. The Count reminds him dryly that he's already explained those women become positively vicious when they set their sights on something. If they see him without a woman on his arm, they'll swarm him like bees to honey. His tone softens then, and he murmurs that if only his daughter had been found in time. He admits he was hoping Lectus could have been her escort, adding almost wistfully that he would have made a fine bodyguard for her. But then he shoots him a glare and says he cannot imagine he would be foolish enough to ever lay a hand on her. Would he? After the report of Selena's death and the existence of her daughter Celeste, one of the Count's men familiar with the neighboring country where Celeste was rumored to have fled was dispatched to find her, but there has been no word since. That's because she never actually went there. Seeing as she is the child of a count and his servant born out of wedlock, this search continues in secret to avoid exposing her to scandal. They never expected her to be in the same city as them, under the same stretch of sky, working cheerfully as a maid. Her father wonders what she is doing right now and hopes she is not in danger. Back in the present, Lectus finds himself sitting on the sofa, completely dazed. The image of her flashes vividly in his mind, those blue eyes, that silver hair, and his heart stirs with shock. He's finally found her. But then she appears before him again, hair now black and unfamiliar. Confused, he studies her face, wondering if he imagined it all. Maybe it was just a dream. He mutters that he knows her, making her flinch. She shudders, bracing herself for the worst, but instead, he simply says she's that young lady who was trying to get to the capital, right? When he mentions their brief encounter, she instantly recognizes him too. Before she can respond, Paula enters the room, and Lectus turns to her, asking why on earth he's sleeping out here. Paula sighs and tells him he really doesn't remember, does he? She reminds him that she said she was going to introduce him to a friend of hers. He came into the parlor to wait for them. But by the time they joined, he was fast asleep. He looks completely clueless and says he guesses he's more tired than usual. What he doesn't know is that of course it is a bald-faced lie. The electric attack solicitor used was Memory Wiper. It uses an electric shock to remove select parts of one's memory as the spell is still in development. Its actual efficacy and duration are still unknown. But thankfully, Paula was there to smooth things over when Lectus woke up. Paula then introduces Celeste as Melody and says they just met today. She bows in front of him and says it's lovely to meet him. He watches her thinking she's so pretty, just a simple greeting, yet her every move and word carries such grace. Lectus recalls the Count's instructions. He didn't care who his partner was, only that Lectus find someone suitable to accompany him, someone who knew how to behave in public. The words echo in his mind as he watches her quietly. Should he really ask her? Count Rudelberg's land, situated in the northern region of the kingdom, was once among the largest territories in the nation. But when the previous count suffered a major financial failure, most had to be sold off, thus sparkling the Rudelbergs' legacy as broke nobles. Over a few decades, the family's debt was finally paid off, but they remained quite poor. However, even in their impoverished state, the count's commitment to his domain's inhabitants won him considerable support from the local populace. Last year's crop failure, for instance. The count's efforts to lower taxes to prevent the people from starving to death are still fresh in the memories of those he saved. And now, for his devotion to his people, he was appointed to the Lord Chancellor's office, the highest administrative body of the kingdom. The current family head who knows what it means to be poor is named Hughes Rudelberg. As Luciana's parents arrive at the mansion, they stop dead in their tracks, staring up at it in disbelief. For a moment, they actually wonder if they've come to the wrong place. Celeste stands at the entrance to greet them with a graceful bow, and the couple exchanges a bewildered glance. Just then, Luciana rushes out, beaming at the sight of her parents. Her father looks relieved, saying it eases his heart to see her well and that he had worried about sending her to the capital alone. However, Luciana's joy quickly fades, and anger clouds her expression as she pushes her father, who stares in confusion. She tells him she has no intention of doing any lasting harm, but he deserves at least that much for what he has done. When he asks what he means, she glares and says she is talking about this mansion. She accuses him of sending her to a crumbling wreck without even checking its condition. Her father, looking around, protests that the mansion is beautiful, while her mother, equally stunned, agrees and says she's surprised that it is even theirs. Luciana exclaims that is because Melody fixed it. If it were not for her, they would be stuck in a haunted spider-filled dump. Celeste smiles and tells them it is lovely to meet them. Both of them watch her with curious looks before turning to their daughter and notice she looks like a literal princess. Offended, she says they only noticed now. Her mother then asks where did she get that new dress. Luciana replies it is not new, it is the same hand-down she gave her last year. Her mother says it most certainly is not, but she insists it is. Melody cleaned up for her. She should have her do the same for her clothes, too. Shocked, her mother asks how did she clean it up. Celeste averts her gaze and hastily changes the subject, saying the lunch is ready. Luciana gestures for her parents to follow her, saying she will explain everything in more detail over lunch, and shoots a sharp glare at her father, telling him to think about what he's done. Her father recalls that the maid here used to be an older woman and asks if she hired a second maid. Luciana explains that the original maid retired due to a bad back and that Melody took over for her. He then asks who just finished making lunch. Luciana replies, Melody, of course, who else? Both parents look bewildered and her father protests that Melody was with them all along. Luciana mutters that she hasn't needed to do this in a while, but she asked Melody to do this today to minimize the explanations she'd have to give. He asks do what? And soon his curiosity is answered. On the table, there are 3 of them. Her father, voice shaky, asks if they are triplets. Luciana tells him to give it a minute, he'll stop trying to figure it out soon. One by one, a wild wine glass melody appears, a wild hors d'oeuvre melody appears, and for the second time that month, the Ruttlebird mansion erupts in screams. A few days later, Celeste asks Luciana if she is quite sure she has everything. Luciana replies she took everything out of her bag and repacked just to double-check. Her mother says they wish they could take her along, but they will tell her all about how brave Luciana was later. Luciana protests that it is just an unrest ceremony. She is fine. In no time at all, Celeste was a regular part of the Ruttlebirds family. Returning to the mansion after seeing them off, Celeste feels a quiet relief, glad that the Lord and Lady have accepted her and notices she's slowly getting used to the rhythm of her new job. She reminds herself she must finish cleaning the room before their return, but when she reaches the table, her eyes fall on the Royal Academy admission certificate, the official notice stating it must be presented on the day of entrance or they risk being denied attendance. Her mind drifts back to her past life, remembering the plane ride when 2 strangers asked if they could sit next to her. She had been surprised that their parents allowed them to travel abroad at such a young age to go on a couple's trip, but they quickly explained they weren't a couple and were part of a group tour. Asakura had pulled out her game pad at the time, explaining it was a sweepstakes prize, a first-edition version of a popular game along with 2 tickets for a UK tour. Kurita had volunteered to be her +1, her chaperone, since his little sister had wanted to go but their parents refused to let 2 underage girls travel alone overseas. This game, The Silver Saint and the 5 Oaths, is a romance simulation game aimed at women, particularly popular among junior high and high school girls. After her mother dies, the heroine is taken in by her father and suddenly thrust into the role of a count's daughter from her previous life as a commoner. She is ordered to enroll in the Royal Academy in the capital, where she encounters and experiences a variety of situations. That story starts on the day of the school entrance ceremony. Christopher, one of the main love interests of the main character, bumps into the heroine and the rest of the story falls into place from there. As Christopher bumps into her, he apologizes and asks if she is all right. Celeste mumbles she was in such a hurry that she didn't see him. Christopher studies her for a long moment before clearing his throat and apologizing, admitting he must have mistaken her for someone else, and then asks what a maid is doing in a place like this. Celeste explains that she has come to deliver something her lady left at home, and he points toward the waiting room. Before she leaves, she pauses and asks if he is a freshman too, noting that it might be late if he doesn't hurry. Christopher smiles politely and assures her he will be there soon. As she departs, Max spots him and calls out, agitated, asking what he is doing there. Christopher casts him a sharp, irritated glance. Max reminds him that he must go to the ceremony immediately, as he is scheduled to give the student speech this year, but Christopher refuses, insisting he cannot leave because he must wait in that spot for her. Max protests, pointing out that the Marquis' daughter is already in the hall and that she is his prospective fiancée, but Christopher only shakes his head, saying he is not referring to her. Even if he allowed it, His Majesty would not approve. Muttering under his breath about the freaking heroine, the saint, he notes that she is not present, and instead he has only run into a dark-haired maid, unexpected and striking, but not the silver-haired heroine he anticipated. Just then, Anna appears asking if there is a problem. She smiles at her fiancé Christopher and reminds him that he cannot miss the ceremony, emphasizing its importance. Internally she snaps at him. How did he miss the freaking heroine while in this? In his defense, he wants to say he was exactly where he was supposed to be and she didn't show up. Kurita and Asakura, now known as Christopher and Anna Marie, knew what world they were in. Both retained their past memories, including information about the Otomo game they once played, the Silver Saint and the Five Oaths. Just the fact that if things keep going as they are, a certain demon king sealed away a long time ago would be resurrected. Without the saint, the heroine of the story, the whole world would be destroyed. Christopher, panicking, says he's telling them he was waiting for the heroine and she didn't come. What do? If they do not fix this, everyone will die. Max thinks if it were not for the episodes like this, he would be the perfect heir to the throne, while Mary thinks she cannot believe this guy is the main love interest. This Otomo game, the story set in this fantasy world, didn't ever start, or it did, just without any heroine to guide it. Meanwhile, Luciana cries out that it turns out she needs an escort for the ball tonight or she cannot go. Every year on the night of the Royal Academy's entrance ceremony, an event called the Spring Ball is held so the children of noble families may make their social debut. Luciana Hooters, 15 this year, is making her own debut this very night. However, the Spring Ball has one rather peculiar rule, which is that all young women making their debut must be accompanied by a male escort. Celeste says she doesn't recall Luciana's parents mentioning anything like that. Luciana says that is because apparently men can go alone, and at the time her mother was already dating her father, so neither of them had to think about all of this, so they forgot it was a rule. And that concludes the video today. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want another part. Their maid Melody is beyond special. The day before the spring ball, she realized they were overlooking something. A rule. All young women making their debut must be escorted by a man. Naturally, since Melody's magic and skills have saved them time and time again, she went right to her for help. In hindsight, Melody is new to the capital. She doesn't know why she expected her to know anyone here. Yet miraculously, she found someone right away. She was too relieved and overjoyed to question it. She stands there, cheeks flustered, because Celeste conveniently forgets to mention that the boy in front of her is the Chancellor's son, while on the other side of the courtyard Kurita grips fistfuls of his hair, pacing in frantic circles and whining as if the sky is about to collapse. Why is there no heroine? He cries, sounding personally betrayed by fate, insisting they're toast, burnt, crisp, and absolutely doomed. Asakura shuts him up the only way she ever does, by knocking him flat with a few sharp blows and calmly rolling her wrists as he claims she nearly skewered him. She steps closer and remarks she really could do it, maybe then someone with an actual spine would reincarnate as the crown prince. She tells him to get it together because he's one of the main romance options. Christopher, or rather Kurita, the day they met, Anna and Crown Prince Christopher locked eyes and memories of their past life together as well as their characters' roles came flooding back. Anna bites her finger in thought, finally stating the real issue: the leading lady is still Mia. But why, when this is clearly the world of Silver Saint and the Five Oaths? Christopher looks like he might start tearing out his own hair, saying that's exactly why he's panicking, because if Mia isn't here, if the real heroine never appears, then every single one of them is Demon Chow, and she's their only hope. The Silver St and the Five Oaths is a classic dating sim. The player chooses what the heroine does and says and the story branches accordingly. It is a school setting with plenty of mini-games like exams, school festivals. More importantly, it also incorporates RPG elements, namely a demon king and a chosen one who can defeat him. This dark one, sealed away by ancient magic long ago, stares and begins to strain against his binds just as the heroine enters school. Only the protagonist, who one day inherits the magic of a mysterious maiden called the Silver Saint, can defeat him. Both the Dark One and the Saint have been forgotten by history, so the heroine has no idea the power she is about to inherit. The seal keeping this great evil at bay slowly loosens, causing ripple effects that lead to strange incidents at school. As if responding to the Dark One's returning power, the heroine's saintly powers gradually began to surface as well. Eventually, the heroine makes her way to the ancient library, a space only saints can enter, and learns the truth about the saints' power, the Dark One's return, and the sacred war that will purge the forces of darkness. While she gets closer to the love interests, various pawns of the Dark One pursue her. Lady Anna Mary being mind-controlled spies from the neighboring kingdom. The heroine must fight a variety of challenging foes until at last, the Dark One returns. Then, just as all appears to be lost, the heroine's great oath, along with the love she so carefully nurtured, awakens in her the evil smiting power of the ancient saint. A heartfelt pledge for herself and for another, everything is in place to the Saint Maiden, a silver blessing. And so the Dark One is defeated and the world is saved. The heroine lives happily ever after, graduates without issue and marries her love interest. Anna tells him that if things unfold like the game, he will eventually return to power, and if they still haven't secured the saint's power by then, they're doomed. She then thrusts a sheet of paper at him and points out the newly posted list of students, saying they can check whether the heroine has enrolled. Christopher practically tears the paper in half as he scans it, demanding what this even means, and Anna, suddenly grave, replies that it means exactly what it says. The heroine of their story, Cecilia Legendbarth, is not enrolled in their academy. She explains she even checked with her contacts at the Commerce Guild. Count Legendbarth hasn't purchased a single feminine product lately, which is a terrible sign. Christopher panics further and asks if she means the Count hasn't found Cecilia yet, and Anna says that's what the evidence suggests. He blurts that they at least know her first name, silver hair and lapis lazuli eyes are rare, so surely they can find her, but Anna counters that the hair may be, but the name won't help. Cecilia is the name the Count gives her only after adopting her. Her mother was a maid, and even in this pseudo-medieval world, being an illegitimate child is rough, so he renames her to dodge scandal and the whole backstory gets hand-waved in the game lore. Anna groans that, before their plane crashed, they were just about to get the bonus story revealing the full details, and now she finally has the chance to see their adorable heroine in 3D. Only for the girl to be a complete no-show. She rants that she was supposed to witness that lovely, enigmatic smile and instead she's stuck staring at Christopher's ugly mug every day, his stupid scrawny face. Christopher sputters at the insult and asks why she's so mean to him, and Anna, ignoring him entirely, adds that she ships Elect with him anyway. Elect actually has presence, he's slender and thick in all the right places unlike Christopher. Mortally offended, Christopher snaps that he'd pick the heroine over her fatty meat cushions any day, calling her a jiggly fan service character, and she demands to know if he's body shaming her right now. He fires back, so what? She started it. Right as the door opens and Max walks in, freezes at the sight of Christopher red-faced and sweating, and completely misinterprets the situation, muttering under his breath as he squeezes his eyes shut. He then asks why the two of them refuse to make their engagement official when they're practically glued together all the time. With no explanation ready, they bolt out of the room, leaving Max staring after them and mumbling that the pair is absolutely bizarre, always together, yet adamantly avoiding a formal engagement. Christopher and Anna in the game. These two were more than simple prospective fiancés. They had to work very hard behind the scenes to remain unattached. Not that Max would know any of that, of course. A few hours earlier, Max sits in the academy's side garden when he turns and finds Celeste standing there, looking startled. She asks if he is Mr. Max, and the moment recognition hits, she brightens and beams that it has been so long. He says it is good to see her too, and judging by her uniform, he assumes her dream of becoming a maid has finally come true. She excitedly confirms it and thanks him again for the help he gave her back then. She notices his attire. He looks like a second-year student. The realization hits her and she jumps, sputtering that if he is a student here, then he must be royalty. Max waves it off immediately, telling her it's fine. They are friends, so there's no need for her to stand on ceremony. He asks what she is doing here, pointing out that she doesn't work for the academy. She thinks she could ask him the same thing, after all, only freshmen attend this ceremony. But she explains that she is currently serving the Count Ruttelberg household, and the young miss forgot something important at home. Max raises a brow at that. The Ruttelbergs? Aren't they the broke nobles with the haunted mansion? The Ruttelberg estate in the capital, infamous among nobles as the haunted mansion, is notorious, yet Max recalls the Count himself being perfectly polite whenever they exchanged greetings in his father's, the Chancellor's, office. Still, Celeste is a newcomer to service. Can she really handle that place? He says it must be tough having an aristocratic family as her first employers, and if anything is troubling her, he would be happy to help. She smiles and assures him there's no need for concern, she's doing wonderfully, and everyone in the household is very kind. Max relaxes at that, smiling back as he thinks he must have worried for nothing, and tells her it's good to hear. But then she clears her throat, hesitating, and he immediately straightens, asking if something is wrong. For a moment he silently curses his optimism. Was she being mistreated after all? Instead, Celeste confesses that her beloved young lady still doesn't have an escort. Max blinks and repeats, an escort. She nods emphatically and says yes, that's the problem. If push comes to shove, she adds, she could always dress as a man and escort her personally. Max bursts into laughter before he can stop himself. Celeste puffs up, demanding to know what's so funny, insisting he shouldn't laugh when she's worried sick. This is practically a life or death matter for her young lady. He immediately apologizes, telling her he's only happy to see she has such a close, friendly relationship with her charge. She beams at that, glowing with pride. Then Max asks why he doesn't escort the young lady himself. As an apology for laughing at her distress, he says it would only be fair. Celeste stares at him, surprised, and asks if he's truly sure. He smiles and replies, why not? He was planning to attend the ball anyway, and if it would help her, he would be more than happy to lend his arm for the evening. Celeste thanks him earnestly and hurries off, saying she must inform the young lady at once. Max watches her go, noticing how every expression she makes feels so sincere, bright and warm, like a little pocket of sunshine. After a while, Max became fed up with the many women who tried to court him for his looks alone or for his father's status. Maxwell has been renowned for his beauty since he was small. He got in the habit of avoiding them somewhat, though he never grew to dislike women as a whole. But not only was she unfazed by his looks, she also did not suddenly gain ulterior motives upon learning he was nobility. He feels oddly safe with her. He wonders if this is a feeling of love. No, at least not that type. When she expresses gratitude again, he beams at her and says, what are friends for? He then finds himself wondering what Count Ruttelberg's daughter is like. Back in the present, he greets the Count's family and his daughter. They look too shocked to respond while he thinks to himself, broke. They look noble enough to him. Later that evening, Max arrives in his carriage to receive Luciana. The moment she steps out, completely flustered and pink to the ears, he nearly loses his composure. He has never seen anyone look so lovely, and it takes everything in him not to laugh. He offers his hand and tells her they mustn't be late, they have a ball to attend. Luciana finally manages a shy smile and says, right, she hopes they have a lovely time. Before boarding, she beams and waves at Celeste. Celeste bows gracefully and wishes her young lady a wonderful evening. Luciana's parents decide to depart as well, but her mother pauses and turns to Celeste, reminding her she mentioned having an event of her own tonight. Celeste confirms it, apologizing for leaving the mansion unattended, but Luciana's mother laughs softly and tells her not to worry, they want her to go and enjoy herself. She hasn't taken a single day off since joining the household, so she shouldn't stay out too late. Celeste changes into her normal clothes and lets her hair fall freely as she steps out into the evening. She waits by the rendezvous spot, thinking that the man said he would lend her a dress suitable for the occasion, though she hopes he isn't going out of his way for her sake. Lecht arrives moments later and asks if she waited long. Celeste smiles and says not at all, she has only just arrived. Paula, already there with her arms crossed, calls out for Celeste to hurry over, saying they have work to do. Later, Celeste gulps and whispers no way. She can't believe it. How did she not notice? She stares at her reflection in awe, marveling that such a glamorous maid was hiding under her own nose all this time. Paula beams with pride and says her family used to work in the cosmetic trade, mostly women's makeup. Celeste touches her face again, stunned, and asks if they really need to go this far. She's only going because Sir Lecht can't attend without a partner. He said he would stop by, greet his employer, and go straight home. Paula mutters about that lousy boss of his and urges her to hurry, they're running late. When Celeste approaches Lecht, his entire face turns red and he squeezes his eyes shut like he's been physically struck. He doesn't move until she calls his name, and then he abruptly says they should leave at once. As the carriage pulls away, Paula watches from behind and mutters that this, say hello and run home, plan doesn't look nearly as simple as he claimed. A little later, seated inside the carriage, Celeste blinks in confusion and asks what he meant by that. Where is this carriage headed? She must have misheard. Lecht still doesn't meet her eyes as he mumbles, the castle. She repeats it in disbelief, the castle, and demands to know why. He explains, as if it were obvious, that it's a spring party. A ball at the royal castle. She stiffens in terror. How is that casual? He is taking her to the very same spring ball that her own lady is attending for her formal debut into society. Lek tries to explain that his boss insisted he attend, while Celeste thinks in growing horror that she has been completely duped. He adds that he's sorry, but she's the only person he knows who meets his boss's criteria. She splutters, asking what kind of maid attends the same ball as her mistress as a guest. It's unheard of. She absolutely cannot go. Lek mutters what a shame. Paula stayed up 3 nights in a row working on the dress Celeste is wearing. Celeste feels herself wanting to scream in frustration, but Lek continues, his voice even more pointed, saying, 3 whole days and nights. And no one gets to see it. Such a shame. Celeste goes silent. As much as she wants to argue, the quality of the dress and the care Paula poured into it is unmistakable. And she knows he has a point. She finally relents and says she will return the ball with him. But she will need a disguise or her lady will find out. He asks her if she is sure, saying the makeup should be disguised enough. She looks completely different. She bluntly tells him not to be a fool, making him embarrassed. Paula's makeup skills are nothing to sneeze at, but even if the men are fooled, a woman's keen eyes will see through this in an instant. She also mutters there would have been nothing to stress over if he had explained the whole situation from the start. He asks is that really how it works, but admits he was afraid that if he told her she might turn him down. She tells him yeah, she would have done that. He says he's sorry. In hindsight, her black hair and eyes are so rare. That alone may give him away and then realizes makeup won't be enough. Suddenly, Celeste rises from her seat, and Lek instinctively leans back as she looms over him, her expression determined. His face flares red as she leans even closer, close enough that he forgets how to breathe, and whispers in his ear that if he insists on taking her to the royal castle, then she will need to borrow his hair and eye color. After the king declares the spring ball officially started, the great doors to the hall are open. There are 3 sets of doors, each bigger than the last, with the largest reserved for the royal family and the highest-ranking aristocrats. But just for the night of their debut, these doors open for all nobles, high and low. Anna and Christopher enter through the grand doors. The crowd turns, or rippling through the hall as cheers rise for the crown prince in his formal attire. Beside him, Lady Anna stands more radiant than the rumors ever claimed. A group of girls watches her pass. One whispers that Anna has matured so much, it's hard to believe she's only 15. Another sighs that she's simply on a different level. Feeling jealous seems silly when the girl in question is the Scarlet Seductress herself. Everyone assumes she will be queen someday. Christopher leans toward Anna and whispers that, if the game is being followed, the heroine should be the last to be announced. Anna says yes in the game. But since the heroine hasn't appeared, it'll probably be some unrelated noble girl. Christopher mutters that if she isn't here, then the world has already gone off script. Maybe the whole event won't happen the same way. Anna forces a smile, telling him not to jump the gun. The ball has barely begun. No one knows how deep the discrepancies run. She warns him to stay sharp and be ready for anything. With no heroine in play, the story has no rails. Anything could happen next. Then the announcer calls the next name, Luciana Stern. Luciana steps forward, nerves fluttering, but she reminds herself that she will be fine. Celeste had given her a passing grade on both dancing and her fancy walk, after all. Max, besides her, watches her with a soft smile and calls her name. But as the crowd notices her, the murmurs begin. How can she even afford a dress suitable for a ball like this? Another girl hopes no one thinks she's like them just because her rank is technically the same. If they had any pride as nobles, they'd have stayed home. One murmurs he almost feels sorry for the sap escorting her. His one chance to walk through those doors and it's with her. Their words die instantly. Every mouth snaps shut the moment they recognize the young man at Luciana's side. The Chancellor's son. Anna stares in shock, whispering that Lord Max is already on track to become the next Chancellor, just like his father. She heard he receives invitations from noble ladies of every rank. And yet he arrived with Luciana? This rattles her. In the game, Max comes alone. He meets the heroine here at this very ball, and makes his first move by offering to escort her at the next event. Christopher's jaw clenches, seething. That traitor told him he didn't have any close female friends. As Max and Luciana walk into the hall, a suffocating silence falls. They approach the king and queen with stiff, awkward formality. Anna trembles, barely keeping herself composed. Luciana is exactly the type of credible, adorable cutie she loves. She wants to clap Max on the back. Well done, what a catch. Christopher is shaking for a very different reason. That traitor can go straight to hell. Why is his date perfectly his type? As the young ladies enter, the orchestra begins to play. The first dance. It is for the waltz. As in tradition, the king and queen open the dance and the rest of the party follows. It is their chance to make their glamorous debut into society, showing themselves off. But all eyes were fixed solely on these two pairs. Anna and Christopher and Luciana and Maxwell. No one even spares a glance at the other ladies. As a social debut it was a resounding kind of failure. The Chancellor approaches Count Rudolberg and says his daughter is so lovely. He admits when he heard his son, who always comes to these soirees alone, had brought a partner for one senior, little fell off his chair. But with that fairy princess, no wonder he is bewitched. The Count nervously says he hopes they haven't made trouble for him. The Chancellor replies on the contrary, he's relieved. He suspected he might be trying to curry favor with him through his son, but seeing them now, he highly doubts that. The Rudolbergs' financial struggles are quite famous. While this means they have few allies, they are also clean of unpleasant financial parasites. The Chancellor smirks and thinks so this is the girl who caught his aloof son eye. Gives him a lot to think about. Later, a wild Beatrice and Maliaria appear. They demand an explanation from Luciana, insisting they are her best friends and she cannot keep secrets from them. Luciana stammers, caught off guard, while Max watches from the side, completely abandoned. A random girl approaches Christopher and asks if he would be so kind as to join her for the next song. Christopher smiles politely but thinks to himself that he must look like a call boy. At the same time, a boy appears before Anna, asking if she would like to join him for the next dance. Anna smiles graciously yet internally wonders what she must look like, a call girl. With the initial words over, people began to dance at their own leisure. It is not uncommon for a few fashionable laid ball goers to start trickling in around now. The Vice-Chancellor stands alone, lost in thought, when the Chancellor approaches and asks if something is the matter. He replies that he was simply wondering whether Lecht has arrived yet. The Chancellor smiles knowingly and remarks that it is right he gave Lecht strict orders to attend this time, didn't he, like a human sacrifice? The Count is clueless, unsure what they mean. Meanwhile, the Vice-Chancellor's mind drifts. He wonders if his daughter has been found, if she might have become part of that happy circle of girls. He wonders if he will ever meet her at all. And Selina, he misses her so deeply that life without her feels unbearably lonely. How he wishes he could see her. A sudden movement draws his attention. Golden locks that shine like stars, a white dress so pure it might purge the world of sin. She is lovely, yet a hint of mystery makes her feel unreachable. Though Anna has a seductive beauty, entrancing as a siren, and Luciana has a fairy-like charm so sweet they could scoop her up in a teacup, this is a different type of beauty in the minds of all who saw it. One thought rang out in union. An angel walks among men. The Chancellor remarks that the ball has its fair share of belles. For a fleeting moment, the Vice-Chancellor catches a glimpse of a girl and, in his excessive sorrow, wonders if she could be his Selina, but he quickly dismisses the thought. Hair color is one thing, he tells himself, but even the cleverest dye could never change Selina's unmistakable blue eyes. Lecht approaches and apologizes for being late. The Vice-Chancellor waves him off, saying it is all right, and even wagers that being fashionably late may work in his favor. Then he glances at the young lady on Lecht's arm and asks who she is. She smiles politely, introduces herself as Cecilia, and greets him warmly. Once again, he is taken aback. Fate, it seems, is determined to play cruel tricks tonight. Cecilia, that is the very name he had hoped to give his daughter, to welcome her into the world of nobles. Meanwhile, Luciana's friends whisper among themselves. One points discreetly and remarks on the girl's glamour, asking what is with all these otherworldly beauties this year. Miliara and the others might as well be invisible. Luciana narrows her eyes, quickly recognizing her from every angle. It is Celeste. Celeste forces a polite smile, aware of Luciana's stare, and convinces herself she doesn't know her. Right? All the girls around her start asking for her attention. Lecht raises a hand and explains that she is not a noble, and this is her first time attending an event like this. A lady nearby teases that the guy who never bothers showing up, let alone with a partner, suddenly decides to bring a girl he just met. It makes her wonder if Cecilia is somehow special. As whispers and gossip spread through the crowd, Lecht frowns internally, thinking this is exactly why he preferred to attend alone. These women are relentless gossips. Christiana, Celeste's aunt, and Haumea, Maxwell's mother, observe the scene. Lecht glances at Cecilia and notices something striking. despite all the noble ladies teasing her, she remains composed, not the least bit rattled, taking it all in stride. Lect had no way of knowing that Celeste's seemingly calm smile was hiding a chaotic ocean of turmoil. She was in fact, more than rattled. She was shaken to her very core. Not by the bluntness of the ladies before her, but by the icy stare of the one behind her. She could feel the stare, or rather the glare at her from Luciana. Luciana's mother remarks that her daughter is the same age and tries to introduce them, suggesting they meet. Celeste immediately thinks no, though the Countess means well, this is the worst possible outcome. She cannot let that happen. There has to be a way to get through this. Quickly, she turns to Lect, cheeks flushed, and asks if he would like to dance with her. Even he looks taken aback at her sudden boldness. Though what Celeste just did was only to save face. Her desperation is considered horribly ill-bred. To garishly interrupt a noble woman is bad enough, but in this culture it is the man's job to ask a woman to dance. For a woman to ask is considered downright vulgar. He agrees, takes her hand, and they awkwardly move on to the dance floor. The ladies watching can't help but smile at the sight, thinking the pair is utterly adorable. So cute, in fact, that they all let it slide. Christiana leans toward Max's mother and remarks that they have discovered a veritable entertainment goldmine hiding right under their noses. Max's mother nods in agreement. She had been mourning the loss of new prey, only to realize an even finer quarry was standing right in front of them. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Luciana stands with her eyes burning. It didn't escape her that Celeste dodged her. Even her friends notice, startled, and ask why she looks so fierce. She brushes it off with a curt, "It is nothing." Then she stomps Tomax and asks if he will dance with her. I repeat, in this world this doesn't fly. A woman is supposed to passively wait for a man to ask, and most maybe she can hint at him a little. Such behavior is outrageous, downright inexcusable. And yet, once again, it was so cute that no one cared. Luciana practically drags Max onto the dance floor. Both of her friends stand nearby, mouths slightly agape, utterly shocked at how boldly she has taken the initiative. One of them senses that Luciana is about to do something particularly interesting and decides it is best to remain on the sidelines for now. On the dance floor, Celeste's mind races. She thinks to herself that she must put some distance between her and the young lady. After this dance, she plans to slip quietly through the crowd and make her way straight home, vanishing from the chaos of the ball before anyone can notice her absence. But then she glances at Lect and notices something odd. He seems awfully stiff, almost unnaturally rigid, and she can't help but ask, quietly, if he is nervous. Lect replies that he is not, though his thoughts tell a very different story. Of course he is, he thinks to himself, how could he not be? A woman he likes has just manhandled him onto the dance floor, and any man would be tense in such a situation. Then, as if struck by a sudden bolt of self-awareness, he realizes what he is thinking, a woman he likes. Could it be that he actually has feelings for her? The thought catches him off guard, leaving a faint blush rising to his cheeks. Celeste, noticing his hesitation, smiles gently and asks if he dislikes dancing. She tells him not to worry, assuring him that it is quite simple as long as he remembers the basics. All that remains is to relax and enjoy the movement, she thinks to herself, though a small, guilty part of her notes that perhaps she is a hypocrite for saying this, considering how serious and precise she had been earlier when teaching the young lady. Then, in an instant, he surprises her by pulling her firmly into his arms, leaving her momentarily shocked. Yet, as the music flows around them, she notices that he dances exceptionally well. With a slight thrill of delight, she admits to herself that this is, surprisingly, rather fun. They begin moving in perfect synchronicity, her daring to make some bold moves to test his skill, wondering privately if he will be able to handle the challenge she sets before him. To her growing amazement, he handles every twist, turn with flawless precision. The other attendees watch in wide-eyed awe. Her cape flutters behind her like the wings of a celestial angel, a bright streak of color in motion, capturing the gaze of anyone who happens to look. Meanwhile, Anna slumps wearily onto a sofa, letting out a soft, tired sigh. With a trace of exasperation in her voice, she asks Christopher how many men are going to approach her to dance every time she tries to slip away just for a moment to say hello. Another bozo with an empty arm and a dream slides up beside him. Christopher observes silently, thinking ruefully to himself that he faces the same problem. And yet here he is, hoping, just hoping, to ask her himself for a dance, but he can't say that it isn't fun to dance the night away with an endless parade of hopeful suitors, a line of lovely young ladies all eager and desperate to cut a rug with him. Lecht glances at her, slightly shy, and murmurs a quiet thanks for the lovely dance. Startled, she blinks at the unexpected gratitude, muttering politely that if he will excuse her, she must take her leave. Just as she begins to step away, the announcer's voice rings out over the ballroom, carrying clearly across the polished floor. The man declares that he hopes the night's festivities thus far have been to everyone's satisfaction and delight, and that for the next song, they will be doing something different, something unconventional. It will be the annual spring ball same-sex couple dance. Celeste squeaks in sudden, high-pitched horror as she feels a cold shiver run down her spine. Appearing almost impossibly close, is Luciana. The younger girl leans forward and murmurs, "Would she like to dance with her?" Christopher thinks about the same couple dancing and realizes it is the mini-event where the storyline shifts depending on which girl the heroine dances with. They can dance with the friends they made at the entrance ceremony, then their friendship meter with them goes up and they get more support from them throughout the story. If they choose to dance with their rival and start their rival meter with them is lowered, which lowers the difficulty level of some scenes. Who they choose depends on their play style and what route they are going for. Of lesser note, the guy-on-guy dances do not affect anything, but they are wildly popular with the girls. He imagines himself with Max, gazing into each other's eyes with quiet intensity, when Anna tries to tease him, her lips twitching with a smirk as she points it out. He quickly cuts her off and says, "Not another word that I end this game." The same couple's dance is the last happy moment before the night takes a turn for the worse. When the last note fades, they will have the next event to contend with. They have spent ages getting ready for it, but now there's no heroine to guide them. The one person most integral to solving things peacefully is gone. If they are not careful, this event may well have a death count. Anna thinks she'll just have to stay on her toes. She stalls when Christopher calls out to her and says, "Why is she skipping like a happy schoolgirl?" Anna says she cannot help it. She finally gets to ask that cute Luciana to dance. This will be the highlight of her whole night. Here are two unfortunate tools who misheard the schedule and have no idea that the same couple dance already started. The same-sex dance. The main purpose of the spring ball is to allow the new Royal Academy students to mingle and show themselves off. But among all the sparkling faces and gowns, one specific pair of girls stands out. The other girls watch Luciana and Celeste dance and look at them in awe, saying they are both amazing dancers in their own right. But it is more than that, they just somehow go well together. They must. After all, while the gender roles are reversed, the two of them have been practicing the exact dance with one another for a very long time. Even so, Celeste thinks the young miss has never done the male part before. Celeste also notices she just stopped her from doing the very thing she warned her about doing yesterday. She's leading in a way that ensures she doesn't make any mistakes. The young lady really does have an excellent grasp of what it means to lead on the male side. She is truly absorbing everything she has taught her. Not only that, she even looks like she is having fun. Just a moment ago she was so intent on escaping, but now she's not so sure. Luciana is also having too much fun to be mad anymore. She decides to just enjoy the dance floor for now. Suddenly, everything around them bursts into light, blinding in its intensity, and no one knows where it's coming from. A ripple of worry spreads through the crowd. Luciana immediately realizes what has happened and flashes a sharp look at Celeste, trying to stop her from making it worse. But Celeste is too lost in the moment to notice that she has unintentionally unleashed her magic, causing the dazzling display. Luciana stomps her heel sharply on Celeste's foot. Celeste jolts upright in surprise. She says, "What on earth is she doing? Stepping on one's dance partner is the very height of rudeness." Luciana snaps, warning her that if she doesn't listen, she will boot her somewhere even worse. She gestures for her to look around, literally tripping the light fantastic. All of this, it seems, is being communicated wordlessly through their eyes. Celeste shuts her own eyes, concentrating, trying desperately to make the light vanish. When it finally fades, the dance continues, and the crowd erupts into applause. Lecht watches with a raised brow. "What an odd display that was," he remarks. The Chancellor nods in agreement. Indeed it was. The Vice-Chancellor approaches Lecht and asks if Cecilia is not with him. He replies they got separated during the same-sex dance. He glances at something in his hand and asks what is he looking at, and his eyes widen when he sees the picture. The Vice-Chancellor admits it is so strange. Somehow Cecilia reminds him of Selena. He cannot put his finger on it. He admits he cannot fathom why. Different hair, different eyes. The mind is a funny thing, isn't it? Lek looks somehow worried and says he should go and find her. He imagines Miss Luciana will have squirreled her away somewhere private to interrogate her, in which case he supposes he should check the more removed, secluded areas. Now that he thinks of it, the first time he ever met her was in Avarentian during the search for Miss Selena. Who would have guessed the girl wandering around lost that day would be the girl he would fall in love with? He believes she is 15 years old this year. She hasn't had her birthday yet, so he guesses 14. Lord, she is 7 young years younger than him. Besides, even if they were the same age, would she even want to be with him? Though he hasn't known her long, it is clear that maids are the only thing she cares about. Priority 1 maid stuff, Priority 2 maid stuff, and Priority 345 all maid stuff. Normally when women get married, they are expected to quit that line of work, so he cannot imagine her responding positively if he tried to court her. Outside, he finds both girls sitting on the edge of the fountain. For a moment, he wonders if Luciana is upset with Celeste for being there, but then Luciana spots him. She turns her head and sends a sharp glare in his direction, and he stiffens on instinct. Luciana says quietly that he showed her a good time tonight, and for that, she thanks him. But she adds, without even blinking, that if he ever tricks her like that again, she will personally make sure he pays for it. He straightens immediately and replies yes, Lady Luciana, thinking to himself that Lady Luciana is kind of scary. Now that he thinks of it, it almost seemed like she recognized her from a single glance, though Count Rudolbergs and his wife did not seem to notice at all. No way with this disguise who could ever tell that this girl is really a dark-haired dark-eyed maid. His inner voice asks if he is sure. Is she really dark-haired and dark-eyed? Is he truly sure? He tells himself when he first met her in Trendivelez in the county of Avaranton, near the border. Her hair and eyes were dark then too. But then the inner voice asked us again if he is sure that the only way he has ever seen her black hair and black eyes, he tells himself. When they met again in the capital, he fell asleep in the parlor and then she came in. His heart suddenly hurts, not knowing what is happening. He thinks it was by pure chance, but then as the light of the moon hit her, her hair dyed gold seemed almost silver hair, and his eyes widened that he knows the Count of Legendbarth had a lover named Selena who had a daughter named Celeste. The Celeste should have the same silver hair as her father the Count, and the same lapis eyes as her mother. Lek knows Selena's face from a portrait the Count lent them to aid in her search. He also knows she hails from the same territory where Selena was finally located, and that she left around the same time as Celeste's disappearance. Lek knows that she can use magic to change the color of her hair and eyes. And that her hair is not really gold. In fact, he knows everything as he watches her, his face baffled. That day in the capital he did not meet her in the parlor. It was in the bathroom that day. Her hair, her eyes were silver and lapis lazuli. There's not a doubt in his mind. She remains oblivious to whatever turmoil he's wrestling with. She simply offers him a gentle smile and says she's sorry he had to come all the way out here just to find her. So much focus was put on her hair and eye color he never noticed, but her other features resemble Selena's in so many ways. A girl who left the territory alone around the same time as Selena's death, who has silver hair and eyes the same shade of blue, who looks an awful lot like Serena. Is there any chance that it is a coincidence, that she is not? No, he knows it is her. It has to be her. Somehow, by sheer luck, he has found her. Melody is really Lady Celeste. But then he wavers, caught in the sudden, unsettling thought of what it might mean for his feelings. He quickly shuts it down, telling himself it isn't the point. It is Melody's wish to work as a humble maid. If his lord finds out about her, that dream will be shattered. But to hide this from the lord to whom he swore fealty, who longs to meet her so painfully, what is he supposed to do? He cannot think of a solution that makes everyone happy. If it must come to this, he finds himself wishing he had never seen her. Just a few minutes ago Luciana asks if she was really not angry at him anymore. She replies that he is not. He apologized before they arrived. Luciana thinks since she has already forgiven him, she supposes she will spare him the 100-paper fan punishment for now. She smiles to herself, thinking how close it had been. Lady Luciana had been fuming just a moment ago. Luciana thinks, to be honest, she is glad she is here. She had a great time dancing with her, but it spoils the fun to think that he was the reason it happened. Some coward who lied because he did not have the guts to ask her out properly. Hitting on her. He can dream over her dead body. She is hers. Luciana turns to her sharply and asks, in a low voice, whether she only sees him as a guy friend. Celeste smiles softly and replies that she does, a very good friend. Luciana stares at her, thinking that this love is as unrequited as they come. That was the clearest, most spectacular friend zone she has ever witnessed in her life. Celeste doesn't seem to dislike him, though. No, that's the problem. She likes him, just not in that way. Then Celeste brightens suddenly and says that speaking of friends, she also met a lovely girl named Paulia, a maid employed in his mansion. Her face warms with a faint blush as she explains that Paulia is an all-works maid just like her, yet her skills are remarkable. She should see her with a makeup brush, Celeste gushes. She's an artist. She's so talented and creative, she has so much to learn from her. Luciana looks at her, deadpan, and thinks, oh, he has no chance. None at all. She wants him to fail, obviously, but at this point she almost feels sorry for him. Celeste suddenly realizes she has been rambling and apologizes. Luciana waves it off, telling her not to worry. She should probably get back before her escort starts wondering where she disappeared to. Celeste quickly fixes the fall of Luciana's dress, tugging here and smoothing there. Before letting her go, she insists on double-checking the enchantments. Luciana asks if she really did put a protection charm on her. Celeste assures her she did. After Luciana leaves, Celeste pauses, glancing around uneasily. She could have sworn someone was glaring at her, yet she sees no one. She hurries after Luciana and asks, as politely as possible, if she would be willing to humor her. She would like to cast one additional protective spell. Luciana says she doesn't mind, though she wonders aloud why. Celeste only replies that a lady's senses must always stay sharp. When Luciana asks which spell she cast this time, Celeste answers calmly that it is one meant to sharpen one of her senses. This time, she sets it to sight. Luciana approaches Max and tells him sorry for the delay. He tells her no need to apologize, he's glad she's having fun. She then smiles and says shall they mingle? She has a few friends she wants him to meet. He replies okay. He then looks around and says the angel isn't with her. She parted ways for now, she replies. He means Cecilia. She went home, he says. Did she? What a pity, he was hoping to dance with her at least once. Her face becomes red and she puffs out saying now he's gonna say that right in front of his date. He looks surprised before laughing. She thinks how dare this guy laugh after looking so bumped a second ago. Max has a point. Luciana used him to get close enough to embellish Melody, then ditched him. And now she has done a total 180. She realizes he's making fun of her. He then stops laughing and says, shall they? Suddenly, she places her hand on her chest. That spell she put on her is reacting to something. She remembers Celeste telling her that if anyone sends an evil eye her way, she will see a light emanating from the person doing it, visible only to her. Celeste told her to look for the person the light is coming from and avoid them at all costs. She looks around and finds a guy looking at her with a weird smile. She thinks what a creep. More light comes and she realizes there is someone else too. It really does respond to any hostility sent her way. Luciana has very limited social experience. A lot of young people in that position end up unable to sense malicious intent, so Max thought he would have to protect her himself. But she seems instinctively cautious of the exact people she knew would be a problem. Now that he thinks of it, that would be a good trait for the wife of a high-ranking noble woman. She maintains a polite lady smile while thinking all this hostility she's sensing over there is that in which she wonders why the girl there is so pretty. Max whispers to her that is the young Duchess of Rinkador. And says that man is Count Saison of the Finance Bureau. And he has received warning from the Bureau for going after the maids employed here. She mutters so he goes after women. Max says as for the lady, she's likely jealous of how she stole the show tonight. She says stole the show and her. Max says so she's unaware. The pair that was expected to draw the most attention tonight was the Crown Prince and Lady Victilium. After that, the big guest deal was expected to be Lady Rinkador, seeing as she's from the next highest ranking family. But look what happened instead. A young lady the ball-goers half affectionately nicknamed the Fairy Princess, performed a scintillating partner dance with an unknowingly mystery lady they're calling the Angel. As such, Lady Rankdoll received barely any attention at all. She should start to see why she's frustrated for her social debut. He warns when school starts tomorrow, it is going to be a disaster. Every student would be scrutinizing the actions of the Fairy Princess, be it big or small. Plus, isn't that the complete opposite of being what a Lutherbrook means? He tells her not to look down and smiles at her, saying not to worry for he will introduce a few friends of his that would be more than happy to help her. She says his friends. Out of nowhere, Anna appears and says it is a pleasure to meet the fairy princess in person. Besides her stance, Christopher and introduces himself as the crown prince of the kingdom. Completely taken off guard, she stammers it is an honor to be in their presence. Max tells her it is okay, she doesn't have to be anxious around them. The two of them are much more down to earth than they seem. Anna says really, no, she doesn't think she ever presented herself to be that high and mighty. She then turns to Luciana and asks who is the angel that she was dancing with during the same couple dance. She replied she was dancing with Cecilia. Both of them flinch in shock at the mention of Cecilia. Anna immediately bombards her with questions, she demands to know where Cecilia is right now, then just as quickly asks what she looks like. Before she can answer, she is already pressing for more, her birthplace, her family name. Max raises his hand and tells them to calm down. Luciana, looking confused, replies Cecilia has already returned home and she's blonde. Once again, they both flinch. They cannot accept the fact that she has golden hair. Luciana asks if something is the matter. They tell her it is nothing, but Anna thinks however, for Cecilia to appear here is she the heroine? But she has a hair of gold, not silver. Yet her partner was rumored to be Lek just like the script. But she also isn't the vice-chancellor's daughter. What could all this mean? She finds herself wondering what is her true identity. Luciana thanks them all for taking care of her tonight. Anna replies they should continue to get along in school as well. Max smiles and says they became fast friends, maybe you should retake year 1 again. The prince smiles and replies there should be no problem as long as the prime minister agrees to it. Luciana thinks to herself, even after all this, he did not show up tonight. The big incident that was supposed to happen in the spring ball, the attack on the ball, if it was, according to the script, the assailant should have broken through that window. But there's not a hint of anything happening at all. They might have to return to the drawing board and rethink their plans for the future after this. Suddenly Luciana's face pales as she realizes Celeste's spell is reacting strongly to something as it starts glowing aggressively. And it is coming from above. She recalls Celeste's words that it might mistake malice directed at someone around her to be aiming for her instead. As she looks up, an assailant plunges down from the chandelier, his sword lifted for the strike. In the instant she understands the strike isn't meant for her, she darts forward, shoving the intended victim aside and taking the blow herself before hitting the floor. The ballroom freezes, shock rippling through the crowd. Anna stares at Luciana, horrified, how she could let this happen. And that concludes the video today. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want another part.